For most of the ships in New York Harbor, this will be just another day. But for the Prudential Lines cargo vessel, Lash Pacifico, moored to a Brooklyn pier, this is definitely not going to be just another day. For in the 36 hours she will be in port, this ship will enter the modern era of space communications. In those 36 hours, the Lash Pacifico will join a growing fleet of ships equipped to operate with the Marisat satellite communications system. This is the story of that system, and about why it is being used by more and more people in the maritime and offshore industries. It is a story about the first truly revolutionary improvement in marine communications in over 75 years. Maritime communications via Marisat. The oceans and the stars, they were always there. And for centuries, man navigated by the stars and met the ocean's challenge. But from the moment the first ship sailed away from shore, sailors throughout history have had one thing in common. Once out of sight of land, they were utterly cut off from all communications with it. Until 1899. That was the year the near isolation and silence that surrounded ships and their crews at sea was broken by the application of Guglielmo Marconi's wireless telegraph to maritime communications. Still, it would be years before wireless was widely adopted by shipping interests. By 1914, after the sinking of the Titanic, international agreements required ocean vessels carrying more than 50 passengers to have a radio with a range of at least 100 miles. And in 1922, the first ship-to-shore two-way voice communications became a reality. Certainly, over the decades, there were some advances in marine communications, but nagging problems of interference, static, fading, and delays in the delivery of messages via marine radio have persisted. In fact, since wireless and Morse code began to be used aboard ship, few significant steps forward in marine communications have taken place. In February 1976, however, such a step did take place. A satellite called Marisat was launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The age of the Marisat satellite system was born, and marine communications were hurled into the modern technological world. The space portion of this system consists of 3 Marisat satellites positioned 22,240 miles above the equator in stationary orbits. 1 over the Atlantic, 1 over the Pacific, and 1 over the Indian Ocean. These satellites, all launched in 1976, combine with shore stations and mobile terminals to give ships and offshore facilities a wide range of instantaneous and reliable communications with land throughout the world, day by day, unaffected by weather or ionospheric changes. Each satellite utilizes a shore station as a network control point for communications traffic in its area. And each station assigns channels to individual users. Then, when a transmission is completed, it returns the channel to a pool for assignment to others. This means that a large number of users can gain access to the system on demand.
Marisat operator, may I help you?
The shore stations, in turn, are linked to worldwide communications networks.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Comsat General has designed a modern terminal to replace the conventional Morse code key. Compact, rugged, of solid-state design, able to track the satellite automatically and engineered to withstand the rigors of a marine environment, the terminal is a mobile link with the satellite. Above, a bell-shaped fiberglass radome protects the small antenna inside. Through this system, telephone calls as clear as from next door, can be dialed up quickly. Telex, facsimile, and data communications can be sent or received just as on shore. Thus, a ship off Madagascar can telephone his home office in Athens. An oil drilling rig in the Arctic can send well log data for analysis by a geologist in Houston. A passenger on a ship near Tahiti can talk with his broker in Los Angeles. A ship owner in Oslo can divert his ship in mid-ocean from, say, Halifax to New York. And Comsat General engineers are actively conducting work to expand uses of Marisat. Already, techniques have been developed for transmitting high-speed data. Looking to the future, research continues on advanced technologies and on new generations of maritime satellites to provide new services. And in New York, aboard the Lash Pacifico, installation of a Comsat General mobile terminal is almost complete. The radome-covered antenna is mounted on a mast. On the console, special provision is made for safety and distress calls. By pressing a button, a channel can be seized instantly and emergency messages sent via a Marisat hotline directly to Coast Guard rescue centers in New York or California. With this terminal, she will become part of a maritime satellite system which can provide communications of a quality, reliability, speed, and privacy impossible before. Captain Robert Wall, in charge of Prudential Lines operations, explains why Marisat is being installed on his company's ships.
In Prudential Lines, we've made a commercial decision to install the Marisat system aboard all of the Lash vessels in our fleet. This is based on our experience with our normal radio traffic during the past year. We gain additional benefits as far as diverting our ships in the case of port congestion, and in addition have the facility for instantaneous communication in emergencies and where we can transmit documents and data to the vessel. Prudential Lines itself, of course, has a large investment in capital equipment here, approximately $400 million. Our investment with this equipment approximates $50,000 per day. Thus, a saving of 1 hour on the mother vessel equates to approximately $2,000 an hour.
The money-saving potential of Marisat has already been exploited by cargo lines like Prudential. But the application of the system by freight carriers is just one of many uses. "3,000 miles from New York's busy harbor, the Atlantic Richfield tanker Arco Prudhoe Bay prepares to depart Long Beach, California. Her cargo is vital and expensive, for she transports oil between Alaska and West Coast ports, the oil an energy-hungry nation relies on. The Arco Prudhoe Bay's veteran radio operator, Keith Pruden, recalls the old days of marine communications.
Now, this is the conventional way that messages have been sent from ship to shore stations and to the offices for decades. We'll call us coast station, and in high traffic areas like Singapore radio, San Francisco radio, we'll be put on a waiting list and be, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours before we can get the message either received or sent off. With the satellite communications, we have direct access to the telex machines in their offices ashore, with no waiting at all for us. When we're used to waiting for hours, we'll have to maybe wait for 30 seconds or so to get connected to the telex machine in the marine office. It's the greatest thing that's happened in our industry that I can recall, and I've been almost in this business since the days of spark and arc transmitters.
For tanker fleets operating in competitive world markets, delays in delivery are measured not in time, but dollars. Today, a growing number of ships like the Arco Prudo Bay and much larger tankers that circle the globe are being equipped for Marisat communications to keep in constant contact with their home offices, to transmit performance and weather information, to transmit position and payroll data, to receive instructions from shore officials, to call ahead for pilots or tugs. Via Marisat, these tankers can be quickly diverted to alternate ports when the price of oil is fluctuating, or rerouted away from bad weather and ice hazards that can mean lost time or even damage to the ship. The precious cargo they carry is drilled for in places more and more remote. Oil exploration ships can use Marisat satellites stationed 7,000 leagues above the seas to speed the search for oil in the depths of the oceans. And oil rigs, isolated, far from shore, probe the ocean's bottom in an endless search for the energy resources which fuel the world. These complex facilities use Marisat's instant communications to their advantage. William Whitney of Chevron tells how Marisat is vital to the offshore oil operations conducted by his company.
We had normal communication equipment, and unfortunately we were unable to contact and communicate with Port Sudan except for just a few hours out of the day. We were able to contact Khartoum most of the daylight period. Sometimes communication was not too clear due to atmospherics and low signal strength. But with our Marisat unit, we were able to contact either from this office or the vessel itself. We could make contact in 5 or 6 minutes, and we had excellent communication. One instance where we damaged a piece of equipment and had to obtain a replacement. Our only communication in obtaining that replacement was through the Marisat unit. We visualized that this, at the very best, maybe saved us 1 to 2 days of rig time. These costs will vary between, say, $70,000 a day and $110,000 a day.
But working ships and offshore facilities are not the only Marisat users. Passenger lines also find instant communications beneficial. Cunard's luxury passenger ship Queen Elizabeth II is in New York. Shortly, she will depart on a world cruise. Chief Radio Officer Donald Butterworth speaks of Marisat.
In 4 hours' time, we will be sailing on the world cruise. Second time we've been around the world. The great difference this time is our communications side. We will have the satellite communications. The change is so tremendous since I first came to sea 37 years ago that, well, it makes one wonder really to think back that the range then in 1937 was 200 maybe miles, and now we've got to the stage where it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is, you just go straight through. The safety angle is using satellites is not just for ourselves, it's for anybody within a reasonable distance of us, that we could inform the Coast Guard, either New York or San Francisco, within seconds that somebody, either us or somebody else, is in trouble. And from there they could inform the local authorities even if we're off Australia or China or anywhere else you like to mention.
Today, a growing number of ships and offshore facilities flying the flags of the world's major maritime nations now rely on Marisat for their communications. For over 75 years, the Marconi Wireless has dominated oceanic communications. But like the sailing ship, its day is passing as the Marisat system is more widely used on the high seas. And yet the surface has only been scratched, for while Comsat General continues to explore new horizons for Marisat's use, the benefits this remarkable system can provide today are only now beginning to be realized. For maritime communications, Comsat General has truly opened the door to the future via Marisat.